Hi everyone, it's Dr. G, and today we're going to discuss what I do as a project manager. I've been a project manager for quite some time in various realms, mostly in the IT space, and today we're going to review what a project manager does. So before we get too deep, certainly give us your comments down below. Tell us what you like, what you want to hear more of. That way we can develop more content for you to help you throughout your IT journey. Also, click the like and subscribe button. That way, you're alerted to any new content coming your way from us regarding all things IT. And then up above, click the download for how much money can I make working in IT. And this will kind of give you a good range, independent if you're just starting out, in the middle, or somewhere more towards the leadership scales of your technology career. So, off we go regarding what I do as a project manager. So there's typically the project management tree goes that you've spent some time in the technical realm, whether it be construction or special events or even technology, of course, which is mainly what this video is about. And you gain some leadership skills as well as some skills and knowledge about the business that you work within, typically before you become a project manager. So this is very much kind of as you begin your management, leadership aspects of your career, and you start progressing from there. So let's have a look. So, what are some projects that I've worked on? Well, all of these right here that you see are all fair game. I've managed multi-million dollar projects. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but these are ones that really, they're all IT related. These are ones that I really learned a lot on just based on the makeup of the expectations of each project. I've certainly worked on some smaller ones and even some larger ones, but I think these ones were just kind of an idea of the types of efforts that you might work on depending on the company you work for, etc. So, and they usually come in tiers: small, medium, large, extra large. Right? Something small might be considered under half a million. Medium might be 1 million to 1.5 million, and then large, maybe up to 3 million, and extra large on up. Right? It just depends on the scale your company has, but just understand that that's kind of how it works in terms of the size of the project, and that what that tells everybody by the like the t-shirt sizes of small, large, etc., is that it gives you an idea of complexity. It gives you an idea of the resources required, the manpower, also the length of time it might take for some of these projects. I've been on them for about usually as long as about 18 months to 2 years at the longest, because once a project reaches around the 3 year mark, typically would fold up into something called a program. And a program is a collection of projects. So, to that end, what is a collection? What is a project itself? Well, a project is, by definition, a temporary endeavor with a start date and a definitive end date with a unique scope, right? There are other variations of definitions, but in short, in summary, the expectation is that the project will end at some point, right? It won't go on forever. If it goes on in perpetuity, then it's called something like operations management, where it's more of a day-to-day thing. But that's kind of your idea of what a project is in general. So, what does my day look like working on a project? Well, you might be surprised. I know I was, even having already been a project manager, that when I saw a stat that said that a project manager spends 90% of their time communicating, that's alarming when you think, gosh, well, what else? What are they communicating about, and what else do they do? Well, it just depends. A lot of it is that you will have people coming to you to resolve and escalate issues that they can't resolve themselves. And it's not that they can't make decisions, it's just that the decisions are such of a nature that it's above their pay grade, so to speak. So they have to kind of go, they need something filtered upwards. And that's where you, the project manager, comes in, not necessarily to make the decision, but probably to filter it up to the management chain that it needs to go to. I've always said that a project manager is very much the lead worker bee, so to speak. They have a lot of the responsibility, but not a lot of the authority or ability to make decisions. It really just depends on the structure of the organization. So the PM spends an enormous amount of time in meetings, which counts towards communicating, talking with sponsors, talking with their management, right? Meeting with your own management, letting them know how the project's going, and of course resources, right? I typically like to ping the resources. By that I mean communicate with them, especially that particular week if I have some hot and heavy tasks. I want to be really honed in on those resources who are helping me with those tasks, right? The other 10% is like project documentation, updating the project plan, perhaps completing some training, and then just peer-to-peer interaction, right? You can learn quite a bit um, from your peers by communicating with them and seeing what projects they're on, what roadblocks are they hitting, what's working for them, etc. So, this is a general rule of thumb. You will see the statistic again if you ever go off and study for more project management, but I think that's par for the course regarding any company and any effort, right? Because the project manager is kind of the center point for the project, right? But let's go through an example project here. So let's say that we've been assigned by our manager, because project managers have a manager as well, for a project such as upgrade infrastructure, right? Maybe we're going to upgrade a new server or something like that. So the beginnings are a project charter. That's where a project starts. And what you do there is you help develop the project charter by coming up with a scope statement, kind of an anticipated budget, estimated start and stop date. And all of these are very high level. Maybe you've already developed project plan, maybe you haven't. These are just kind of some wags or wild guesses, if you will. Uh, and that's what a project charter is. They get signed off on by both sides, meaning your customer and you, the IT side. And the signature authorities really just depend on the companies, right? It may be the project manager signing the document, maybe somebody above you, right? I've seen it both ways. From there, then you can kind of figure out, well, what methodology should I pick, right? Because with the project charter, you can figure out, is this kind of a large, extra large, small, medium project like we talked about earlier? And sometimes the company will pick the methodology for you, right? They'll standardize across the board and just say every project has to go agile or a traditional format, right? It just depends, like a waterfall format. And so this is where you, the PM, might be able to help decide that, or it might be decided for you on what type of methodology you're going to pick. And this is its own video all by itself regarding project methodologies, because there are a ton of them out there. But as a general rule of thumb, you'll probably follow one of these two at a very high level, right? From there, you start aligning your resources. And just depending on what phase of the project you're in, will depend on what resources you get. Early in the project, you're going to get a lot of planners, analysts types of resources on an IT project. In the middle, towards the end, you'll get more developers and designers and architects as your resources, right? And my suggestion is to make friends with all of them, especially their managers, right? Because when you really find those A players, you want to try to keep them as long as possible on your projects, because other people will know about them and like them and want them for their projects. But at the same time, make sure that your estimating and everything is aligned with that level of resources skills, right? We've all been a junior type of resource at one point, or you may become one if you're listening to this video. And so you might get paired up with a more senior person. And that's okay, because one day you may become that star that all of us are really looking for to be on our projects. So establishing relationships with resources means the people who are going to be assigned to your project, as well as the managers who are assigning them to your projects, right? So it's always good to go both ways and be sure to be friendly with both. Next up on a project, you'll then start requirements. So once you have like an analyst assigned, maybe a business analyst or a systems analyst, you will start the uncovering what the needs and wants are out of this project, right? Because every project starts with an idea, right? Hence the light bulb theme of this um, presentation here. And from that idea, you then have to kind of flush out and get through the weeds of, well, what are the requirements? What is it that we want out of our project? And that's what requirements do. They answer the want of the whole project, right? And so that will get documented. And then from there, you'll move on to something more like design, right? Where you'll take those requirements and you might have a designer, also the systems analyst, who then takes those requirements and turns them into tech speak, so to speak. And those are like the technical specifications of a requirement that says, okay, If this user wants this kind of functionality, that's the requirement. That means our design has to say the person has to click A, then B, then C, right? That's kind of the idea of a tech spec. And perhaps development also begins, right? Especially if you're in an agile format, you're kind of doing the requirements and design and development kind of all in a cycle, so to speak. Um, so your developers will become hot and heavy at this point in full scale development where they're actually coding at this point. You then kind of move into testing and implementation where you're looking for bug fixes, any functionality that was requested isn't working now. You might have to kick it off later to a later phase. If you're an agile project, if you're more traditional, well, then you're going to fix it right now to get the project implemented, right? And then lastly, in this kind of example project, you have what are called LOEs, or level of effort tasks, meaning these are the type of tasks that never end. They go from start of the project to the end of the project, right? Your hope is that every task on the project, has a start stop to where you get to the end line. But LOEs are the whole phase, the whole project, such as risk management, communication management, quality management, right? And updating sponsors and customers throughout the entire project are examples of level of effort tasks, right? So that's just an example of a very generic project such as upgrading infrastructure that you can expect to see these types of tasks, milestones, deliverables, etc., right? What are some example project tools and resources? Well, I would start with PMI.org, and that's the Project Management Institute. They pretty much are the 900-pound gorilla for all things project management. They developed the PMP, Project Management Professional Certification, as well as other certs such as the Agile one, which I actually have both of those, the PMP and the Agile one. That's where I would start because if you're going to start becoming trained on resources, I think this is a great place. Also, get to know Microsoft Project, right? Go to Microsoft's website and download um, Project itself. That's the name of the application, and become familiar with how to start working on tasks and milestones and budgets and dates, etc. Right? So that's the software that will help you very much in like the waterfall traditional approach to project management. Other types of software that may be more agile related would be like Trello, right? That is more for like Kanban types of projects. I really come to like this one. There are plenty of other examples out there, right? You don't have to just work on Project or Trello. These are just example resources and tools that I've used, plus many others that I'm sharing with you for the purposes of this video. But certainly start with PMI because I think that's going to help you throughout your career as a project manager. And, it's the relationship I've had with him for over 20 years because I've never let my project certifications go or lapse, right? So there you have it in a nutshell. That's what I do as a project manager. Hopefully this has helped you. And again, be sure to click up there to get your free download of How Much Can I Make Working in IT, and we will see you on the next video. As a reminder, click the like button, leave us your comments, let us know what you'd like to hear more of. Also, click the subscribe button and the bell button so that you're immediately alerted anytime a new video is published. Be sure to join our IT Village, which is the link to communicate with others within our YouTube channel over on our platform so that you can get answers to your questions. And lastly, in the upper right corner of our YouTube channel, click the free download of How Much Can I Make in IT?